So I actually made a video about the 6 shot types that you should get when you film a documentary. If you haven't seen that video yet, go to this link, watch it, it's very informative. But more importantly than getting these shots is you want to be able to get these shots confidently. And so what I want to talk about is how to properly anticipate action on the day. So I'm gonna get a bit philosophical right now because it's important to understand these philosophical truths in order to then shoot more confidently when you're out in the field. What I mean by anticipating action is anticipating the shots that you need to grab. And it's by anticipating the shots properly that helps you then get great shots, but also helps you understand how to film things and make it look like more than one person filmed them. In the first scene in Who Is My Neighbor, as they're marching down, you're seeing this guy talk on a megaphone, but what you're noticing is we're cutting between wide angle shots of him saying this prayer, and then we've got details and close-up shots of him saying this same prayer. So what's going on here? How is one person filming all of this at the same time? Because clearly I'm not just shooting at a large, large resolution. So if you look at the shots closely, you'll notice that this isn't just me filming in 4K wide and then punching in to get the close-ups, right? Because the depth of field is changing between these shots. What's happening? What's happening is a very interesting thing that I've learned over time, and it's essentially, this is where we're gonna start getting weird, but I'm weird, so I don't care. Essentially, life is based on cycles. And so it's this understanding that life is based on cycles that helps you realize that when you see an action being performed, it's highly likely that that action is going to repeat itself. So what I mean by life being based on cycles? Well, this morning, the sun rose, and this evening, it will set, right? And it did the same thing yesterday, just in the same way that it did it 100 years ago, just in the same way that it did it 1,000 years ago, in the same way it's gonna do it 1,000 years from now. The seasons change, right? We're coming into winter, and we're leaving fall, just the same way that we did last year, right? In the same way you get where I'm going, right? And human beings, we start developing habitual patterns that we sort of operate on, okay? And even within that, we have our own personal micro nuances and micro quirks where we actually kind of behave. Like I believe that behavior itself is based on loops. It's based on cycles. What I mean by that is you will often say the same thing over and over again when you're telling somebody something. You'll just repeat the same thing all the time. Like I just did it. You'll notice I keep doing this circular motion with my hand, right? At one point I'm trying to make the emphasis of what I'm talking about, but I keep doing that same motion. So, and I'm not even like intentionally demonstrating this. This is just me just trying to explain this concept, and I just happen to be doing these things. That is how life works. So as a documentary filmmaker, this is this sort of anthropological application of that understanding of how human beings behave, how life actually works, because if you're going to document life, it's very important for you to start understanding these principles underneath the reality so that way you can properly document reality. Saying that, when you understand that life is based on cycles, you can now trust that a specific action that you see, it's very likely that that action is going to happen again. This is sort of a general rule that I apply across the board. This does not apply to every single situation. There are certain situations where the action is only gonna happen once. It's kind of obvious when those actions happen, right? So like in a wedding, for example, the first kiss is the first kiss. You're not really gonna get another first kiss, right? There's certain moments in life that only happen once, but I seem to see those as rarities, right? And aside from those select few moments, in general, the majority of actions we take are repetitive, and we do them multiple times within the same setting, right? Again, I did it again. I'm doing this waving motion. So if you understand that we keep doing this stuff, what I could be doing right now is filming a close-up of my hand and doing a cut on action and just cutting out 5 minutes of what I'm saying, right? Because I would just immediately cut on action. It's understanding that cyclical pattern and then having an editorial mindset as you're filming to know, okay, when I see an action, I know it's gonna happen again. So when I saw this guy praying on the megaphone, praying this prayer, I caught him right as he started this. Okay, so immediately as I'm catching it, my thought is, I need to get great audio of this and I need to get an establishing shot of this. So I'm gonna film this entire thing wide. So I film the entire prayer wide because even if he doesn't say the same prayer over again, I still have the prayer itself, and then I can cut in for close-ups of the people marching around, because it's not like they're gonna say that prayer and they're just gonna run away and disperse like cockroaches. We're going like 2 miles, right? So like, I know these people are going to keep marching in the same direction and they're going to keep in the same order, because that's just what we do. When we are marching, we tend to place ourselves in a specific spot in line, and we're like, okay, this is my spot, because that's what you do. You just take ownership of your place and you stick with it, okay? So he says the prayer, I get the wide, right? Because I want to establish it. And then he says the prayer again, the same prayer. He just repeats it again. And once he starts repeating it again, that's when I start getting my close-ups, my reaction shots, my details, and I start filling in with all the remaining coverage. It's that understanding that these behaviors are going to repeat themselves again, which allows me to film in an intentional way and anticipate the actions that I'm seeing. So anticipating action is kind of like in 2 parts. You've got the pre-visualization, so that way you understand, you sort of start to think through, okay, I'm going to a march. What happens at marches, right? Well, probably the same thing that happens at other marches, because we are creatures of habit and for the same purpose of the cycle thing. So it's not too difficult to figure out what's going to happen at a march. People are going to march, they're going to hold up protest signs. Those are things I'm going to need to grab. But then within the march, when people start doing things, you know, and you can trust that they're going to do the same thing over and over and over again. Not like they're on an infinity loop, right? Because clearly, as I've been talking this entire time, I started at one topic and I've transitioned through topics throughout. But as I've transitioned through topics, I've spoken in what I like to call thought loops. So this whole cyclical thing also applies to how I run interviews as well. So we'll talk about that more in depth in the next video. But that is essentially the importance of anticipating action, is understanding that life is cyclical, people are pattern-based, and it's very likely that if we do one action, we're going to do it again. So once you see one action being done, however you frame that, if you got the close-up of it, immediately shift to a wide, because now you know that you're probably going to be able to catch that in a wide again. And so you can start to shift around and make sure that you get the appropriate coverage for what you're shooting. Hope this video was helpful to you. If you guys have any questions, just let me know. I'm happy to answer anything. And keep a lookout for our future videos where we're going to dive deep into what storytelling is and how storytelling affects us. All right, I'll see you in the next video. Take care.